Welcome in to Retro Wrestling Rewind, episode number 12. Yeah, that's right, folks. Episode number 12. As always, I am one half of the greatest tag team podcast champions of the world. As always, I'm the world's greatest ring announcer, retired David Fine, alongside the real man from Long Island, the great Long Island IC, the hell with Zack Ryder. If he's listening, he can kiss my butt. Alex G, what's up, man?
I wouldn't say that. He lives near me. He's pretty big.
Actually, I think he lives in Orlando because he had to move.
Does he move?
He had to move to Florida where he could get a bigger house for all his fucking figure collection. Have you ever listened
houses are expensive up here.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a great place to live in that area, but it's so expensive. You've heard his podcast, right? Major Figure.
I did. I like the YouTube videos he's doing too. They're pretty good.
And he buys so much crap. Anyway, but
let's be honest. If we're making his kind of money, we probably have all the same crap.
Probably. And
I want to buy a DeLorean.
And you are going to buy a DeLorean
at some point. Yes.
Yes, you are. Because you know why you want to buy a DeLorean? Well, because they're cool, and that we go back in time. Yeah. The Retro Wrestling Rewind. See.
True.
That's true. It's damn true. Speaking of things that we're going back to talk with, Sunday, April the 23rd, 1983. Were you even born in 1983?
I was.
You was? How old were you in 1983?
I was 1 year old.
You were born in 1982. The great Super Sunday show from the AWA, the American Wrestling Association. What were your thoughts on the whole, before we get into the nitty gritty of the 8 matches.
Yeah.
The main event, Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon defeated Sheik Adnan Al-Kaisi and the great Jerry Blackwell in a tag team match. What were your thoughts on this? I mean, they had the great...
Well, right off the bat,
yeah.
I know a lot of people call Starrcade the granddaddy of them all, the first quote-unquote wrestling pay-per-view. Super Sunday predates that, by the way, so... You want to keep that in mind that, technically, if you want to be a jerk about it, that Hulk Hogan did main event the first wrestling pay-per-view of this particular era. So I want to make that clear right off the bat.
I mean, they start the match with Brad Reganis.
Brad Reganis is awesome.
Defeats the great Rocky Stone. I mean, I wish I had his wrestling figure. What were your thoughts on this match? 7 minutes. Start off AWA, Super Sunday.
Reagan's never got, I guess, the notoriety or even the push that he probably deserved. I would like to see him, team up with like Ken Patera, and they could have done an Olympian type gimmick. I know they did that later on in the AWA, I think in '87 or '88 or whatever. But he's a legit, wrestler. Like he was in the Olympics. He's a legitimate wrestler. Vern loved to have those guys, and he trained a bunch of dudes. So his kind of legacy in professional wrestling as being one of the toughest guys of all time, like right up there with like Haku and like David Schultz, and he's in the same kind of league as those guys as being a legitimate shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Why they had him on the opening match on this card, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good opening match. Of course, they had Mean Gene Okerlund as the ring announcer.
I know, it's awesome.
I mean, the way he introduces people, I wish I had watched his tapes doing this back when I was doing ring announcing, because he was...
Gene Okerlund is probably the best backstage interviewer of all time, but definitely underrated as a ring announcer and underrated on commentary as well.
Yeah, he was.
And he's probably drunk right this second.
He's probably drunk right now, but
I met him in person one time, and he asked me after the event if I was going to the bar.
And what did you say?
I said, absolutely not. I'm with my wife.
And if you had not been with your wife, would you have gone to the bar with Gene Okerlund?
Absolutely. It reminds me of the time where I'm at WrestleCon, and I'm getting a picture with Kevin Nash, and he asked me if I was going to the Shrimp Club with them afterwards, and I told him no because I have to go watch a Evolve event, and he called me a fucking mark.
You should have gone with him. It was
I spent money on those tickets. I'm a cheap bastard.
You could have sold them, and you could have freaking watched him get a lap dance. I don't know. I mean, it's just
I,
weird.
two things about the strip club that are big no-nos. Number one, you can't throw change on the stage, and you can't wear sweatpants with no underwear underneath them. That's very, very much frowned upon.
Huh. I want to ask how you know this, but that's for another. That's for a Patreon
Well,
exclusive.
you frequent the strip clubs. You should know this.
Yeah, well, but that's like I said, that's neither here nor there. Next match on the old event had Steve Regal, not Lord Steven
That's the
Regal,
real, yeah.
versus Buck Zumhoff. And speaking of Steve Regal, he's going to be on the program soon. He's going to
I
be
know
on
he's a super underrated wrestler. I
he's
wish
gonna
there was
he's
get
gonna
more love.
he's gonna be on a Patreon exclusive, of course. If you didn't listen last week, which if you didn't,
Shame on you.
why the hell do you do that? But anyway, go back and listen to the first 11 episodes.
We got to make sure to ask Steve Regal about being the son-in-law of Wilbur Snyder. That's awesome to me.
I was actually going to do that. I was actually text messaging him today.
Nice.
We've become that close, and he's I love old school wrestlers because a lot of them either don't want to talk to you and are not friendly, or then they're the ones that are over friendly. And he's really friendly and he's a really nice guy. From what I've gathered, he's going to be on a Patreon exclusive. It's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So you want to know, what the hell's Patreon? Just go to patreon.com/retro wrestling rewind. As always, you can become the Western States Heritage Champion. I mean, why the hell would you not want to become the Western States Heritage Champion? Because you know who is a great Western States Heritage Champion? The great
Larry Zbyszko?
Larry Zbyszko. And I think, wasn't it Kendall Windham? No, he was. One of the Wyndhams was the Western.
I'm pretty sure it was just Larry Zbyszko, maybe Barry.
And if you want to become the Western States Heritage Champion, that's only, hey, even Alex G could afford, even though he is super cheap, he could get, it's only $1. And you get the old.
Doesn't matter how you do it, man. You can send us 100 pennies.
Yeah.
It's still money.
It's still money. And we'll give you the old hello every week on the program. If you're if you want to go into the TV part, if you want to become the world TV champion, that is $5 or more a month. I mean, we like the more. $5 is good, but the more is better. We actually have a world TV champion. He's going to be listening on the Patreon account. He's one of the biggest fans of the program. He loves, for some reason, he's a fan of mine, but I'm friends with him. But he's a big fan of Alex G. I'm not sure why, but
I'm surprised myself.
And he loves their YouTube channel. So he loves your YouTube channel. He's like, yeah, ours is, yeah. But he loves the old retro wrestling video games channel. If you become the TV champion, you'll get a monthly Patreon exclusive show, which will be, of course, the Steve Regal interview. The Steven Regal interview could be the Gary Capetta interview. Could be stuff that we can't put on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher because. I mean, we do have that E symbol next to the show, so we can say whatever we want. But on Patreon, we give you a little extra. And, of course, on every platform and every tier, you get the old...
I'm less likely to be sued about something I said on Patreon.
Probably not. You get the old howdy ho hello from Alex G. If you want to be the national champion, that's $25 a month or more. At this level, you get to pick a show. So you can pick a show, you can pick an era, you can pick like I said last week, if you want to do
Starcade 90.
Yeah, if you want to do a retrospective on Sam Houston's glorious career, then you can become you can be the national heavyweight champion.
Don't pick anything XPW because I will not review that.
No, and then don't ask for anything that we have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
I watched XPW. It's worse than WCW at the end.
What?
Yeah.
And then you also get you get the monthly Patreon exclusive show, which, could be our first Patreon, who's, of course, like I said, the TV champion. He wants us to, on Patreon, we will not just talk about retro stuff. I mean, that's our main, as they say, bread and butter. But if you want us to talk about the current product, We will. I mean, he wants
I can
us
talk
to.
about how awesome Becky Lynch is right now. I can talk about what they're going to do with the Universal Championship.
Is she the
How
man?
many abs does Finn Balor have? How awesome MLW is, my favorite current promotion. What they're doing with the current NWA,
And
and
speaking,
who and if you watch Impact Wrestling for some reason, when they're not running over children, we'll talk about that too.
and speaking of the NWA, we got a Heidi Ho hello from the guy who runs the YouTube channel and also the show for NWA, and we're gonna get him on in the next couple weeks. Of course,
God willing.
as always, you get the old Heidi Ho hello from Alex G and David Fine. And if you want to be the 60-minute man and you want to become the world heavyweight champion,
Like me.
you get to be on the show every 30 days. Like a real champion, because remember back in the day when the champion actually had to defend the title every 30 days, unlike Brock
Unless they were in
Lesnar?
Japan, because Hogan
Yeah,
never. 84 Hogan, he just like would disappear for months on end because he was in Japan.
yeah, and you also get a T-shirt from the merch department. Gonna put those together, send those out. Got to talk to the people up in corporate, get them put that together, and also at the
Are we
celebrity.
gonna do fanny packs? I think we should.
I don't know about your fanny, but I don't need anything. Speaking of
You
fanny
don't want
packs,
anything packed in my fanny? That's weird and
no.
slightly gross.
Speaking of fanny packs, you know who loves fanny packs?
Michael
Michael
P.S.
P.S.
Hayes.
Hayes. Michael Purely Sexy Hayes. And of course, we can go off on a rant on Michael P.S. Hayes.
He's not a rock star.
You also get a monthly, the Patreon exclusive show. And you get the old Heidi hello, Tim, the Toolman Williams hello from David Fine and Alex G.
Who's Tim Williams?
Tim
Is
the
he
Tool.
related to Frankie Williams or Butch Williams or Dr. Death Steve Williams?
No, Tim. Oh, sorry. Tim the Toolman Taylor. Sorry, my shoot job. His name is Tim Williams, and I call him Tim the Toolman Williams. Tim the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement. The old
Is he
Heidi.
related to Chris Taylor or Scott Taylor or the Taylor Made Man?
Yes,
Terry Taylor?
Yes, he is. Well, we won't talk about that, but we'll talk about the next match. Jerry
Can we talk
Lawler.
about Ron Trongard and how awesome he is on commentary? Because he's insane.
Can you tell us how much you mark out for Ron Trongard?
To me, he's like one of these old timers who are consistently drinking and smoking cigarettes while doing commentary like the entire time. He wears like dark sunglasses, but it's inside. He looks like he's 95 years old, and he's just completely out there in an awesome way. Like I appreciate his commentary. He just takes us back to a time where everything was completely different.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it was a different time back in 1983.
I think he gets fired because I think that's how. Who's the other guy? He had the other commentator. Oh, I forget his name.
Anyway,
But he was awesome too. He was the guy who did the Russell Rock Rumble rap.
hey, if you know who the hell Alex G is talking about, just email us at on the website at retrowrestlingrewind.com. What are your thoughts on this match? Jerry Lawler, singles match versus
Oh, I
John
didn't get to say how
Tolos.
much of a scumbag Buck Zumoff is. I
Okay.
just want to let everyone know out there that he's
You
a
don't like
scumbag.
rock and roll Buck Zumoff?
No, because he's a Chester the molester.
Really?
He got 25 years in prison.
Is he still in prison currently?
Yeah. 25 years. If he was sentenced in 2014, he's going to be in there till he dies.
Yeah.
He has two counts of first degree and 2 counts of third degree counts of criminal sexual conduct.
It's not, that's not funny, but I was
And he
looking at,
escaped jail too.
well, what is he, like El Chapo, that the drug guy in
Yeah.
Mexico? Anyway, on his Wikipedia page, his birth name, born, his current residence, Minnesota Correctional Facility in Rush City, Minnesota. Yeah, well, anyway, but so is that all the disparaging and mean remarks that you have to say?
I'm curious about the AWA World Light Heavyweight Championship. That's interesting to me. I remember that belt was in like FMW for some odd reason. It was weird.
It was weird. Yes. I mean, it was a. I mean, I was not a fan of Buck Zumhoff.
Yeah, he came to the ring with a boombox. like he was a break dancer or some shit.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but I mean, it was AWA back in
Well,
1983.
he was a tag team partner of Iceman King Parson as the Rock and Soul connection.
Yeah, I mean, speaking
Weird.
of Iceman King Parsons, the great Gary Michael Capetta, of course, which interviewed last
Yeah, he
week.
was at the big event. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's posted a picture on his Twitter account, and it's under Gary Capetta on Twitter and all the social medias. It was a picture of Iceman King Parsons, who looks old as crap. Jimmy the Boogie
Yeah,
Woogie
because he is old
Man,
as
Jimmy the
crap.
Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, who
Always looked
looks
old
like a
as crap.
homeless wrestler,
King Parsons is
and
older than my mother.
the great Tommy Wi-Fi Rich. And that for some reason that's
Getting
caused a
fired
lot of
up.
controversy on Twitter. I don't know how, but
Because
maybe
Tommy
because,
Rich?
huh?
He found Jesus, though. He's all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I met Tommy Rich one time at a wrestling show, and
Is he
probably
drunk?
no, but he had his son. It was in back in the lock. It was in the locker room.
Was he drunk?
Probably his kid was probably drunk. It was in Rome, Georgia. You have to be drunk to be in Rome, Georgia, to find Rome, Georgia, to be the smartest man in Rome, Georgia, which Jim Cornette said to me at one of those big shows in Rome, Georgia. We were in the back. I was getting all the information from everybody, their entrance, their weight, whatnot. And his son said, "Hey, Dad, are we facing Abdul the Butcher tonight?" He goes, "No." He goes, "No, son. That's tomorrow night at the Omni." That's all. That's all I got to say. And I forgot who he faced that night, but it was not Abdul the Butcher.
It
God,
was sure as fuck wasn't the Omni.
it was no, it was not the Omni, but it was. I would have
The
loved
Omni
to.
is what I consider the Madison Square Garden of the South.
Yeah, it was.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
That is actually a dead on statement. That was where I first saw my first wrestling event. I went with my grandmother back early 80s, maybe 81, 82, with my
Was it
uncle.
for Georgia Championship Wrestling or was
No,
it
it
for
was
the
the
WWE?
NWA. And the main event was a cage match. And my grandmother got on her seat and started screaming at the wrestler. I don't know who
Was
it
she a
was.
working granny?
She was a working granny. Wait, what the hell's that mean? Oh,
It means that she would scream at the heels and sometimes take a swing at them.
oh, no, she didn't take a swing at him, but she could probably hold her own. She was
I'm not calling your grandmother a woman of the streets now. That's rude.
you're not calling her Big Mama?
Big Mama is a street lady.
God, holy shit. Anyway, moving on from disparaging words on Buck Zumhoff, who is currently will not there's a lot of wrestlers that we could
They
probably get on the
buried him underneath the jail.
on the podcast, but don't think we'll ever get him on there because he's in jail forever. Speaking of a guy who almost is not with us anymore because he had a heart attack on air back a couple years ago on Raw. I think it was
I
Raw.
do want to go to his restaurant, by the way.
Yeah, I heard it was a shithole, but
Really?
yeah,
I
it was.
good.
I mean, it maybe. I mean,
It's not Abdullah's House of Ribs and Chinese food. I know you frequent that place.
I don't anymore because you know why? Because you could get Hep C and
Hepatitis,
all those other letters from his.
It
I heard it
probably
was
tastes
actually.
delicious, though.
I heard it was actually really good. And yeah. Anyway, but no, Jerry Lawler versus John Tolos.
The Golden Greek John Tolos, who most, I guess, modern wrestling fans or mainstream wrestling fans might remember as the coach, Mr. Perfect's manager in the WWF post Bobby Heenan. So,
God, I love Bobby. Man, if Bobby Heenan was still alive, he would have had a great podcast. Holy
oh
crap.
yeah, it would have been fucking amazing.
Like he would have had 1 million subscribers. Oh God, he would have had some great stories. I mean, that's just sad what cancer can do to you.
Now,
But
John Tolos had made his, I guess, his wrestling impact for the LaBelles in Los Angeles, and his, rivalry with Classy Freddie Blassie. So, old school, you can't get more old school than John Tolos and Freddie Blassie fighting over the America's Championship in the '60s. So,
yeah, it was.
so we see John Tolos here taking on, Jerry Lawler. Again, Jerry Lawler and the Memphis promotion has been working with the AWA for quite a while. They always had Nick Bockwinkel come in. Eventually, Lawler did win the AWA World Championship, but that's, still down the road here. But, good to see Lawler on a big show like this for the AWA. So it's really kind of given him his credibility when he goes back to Memphis.
I mean, it was 7 minutes 53 seconds. I mean, it was third match on the card. I mean, he would have been, of course, higher if
And
it
this is
did.
'83 Lawler too. '83 Lawler is fantastic. Go back. The entire year of 1983 Memphis is on YouTube. Like, go watch it because it's awesome.
The whole year of 1983 is on YouTube.
Yeah, most of 82, all of 83, I think most of 84 is on there.
How's the how?
Memphis, there's a lot of Memphis on YouTube because the ownership stake in terms of the video library has always been in dispute. So it's like no one owns it.
I mean, how's the quality? I mean, stuff on
I mean,
YouTube.
it's it
1983.
depends on the feed. If you got the I guess the WMC feed, the Memphis feed, it's probably a little bit better if you end up getting the Louisville feed. It tends not to be that great. It also depends if Cornette was the one taping it or not.
Oh God!
But the quality is decent.
Have you seen that edition of 10 Pounds of Gold
I did
with Jim Cornette?
yeah.
God, he's got so much cool stuff. I mean, he's the guy I want to get on the program because
He's a very busy man.
he is. I mean, he's doing the NWA. He's doing everything now. It's like
He has 2 podcasts he does weekly, and like he becomes more like he tries to retire, but he just becomes more busy. They're doing a reunion tour with the Midnights too. That's coming up, I believe, at the end of this year, going into next year. So look for the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette in a town near you.
which Midnight Express? There were a couple that he managed.
I think they have all 3 of them. It's Stan, Dennis, and Bobby.
Not Randy Rose.
Oh, fuck Randy Rose.
Hey.
Now, it'd be awesome if it would have been Dennis Condrey and PYT Express. Why can't I remember his name?
Oh, that guy.
Shut up.
See, he's typing in the old Google.
I'm usually good with names.
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't know, but
It never. Like I tell my wife, this never happens to me.
and my wife always says it happens to you. But while you're typing in the old Google machine, the next match had the Texas Cowgirls. Really, the Texas Cowgirls. Wendy Richter, and Joyce Grable defeated. They were the champions of the AWA women's.
Norville Austin. There you go.
Who?
Norville Austin.
That was on the top of my brain. They were the current AWA Women's Tag Team titles or champions. They defeated the great Judy Martin and Velvet McIntyre, the lady who wrestles without shoes on, kind of like the Von
I guess I gotta be honest here for a second.
Uh-oh.
For this time, in terms of women wrestlers, Wendy Richter is probably the best looking of all the women wrestlers at this time.
And
I
she's
think
she's
that's safe
not,
to say.
I mean, and she's not like she's good looking, but
she's good looking. She's very good looking.
But compared to the wrestlers now, the female wrestlers now,
well, yeah, because they're most of them are CrossFitters and models and stuff.
Yeah,
athletes, yes,
they're athletes. Well,
but they're also gorgeous.
What were your thoughts on that? I mean, in this match, it was a women's tag team champions.
I don't think this was even a real tag. I don't think this was a real title because they wouldn't have the women in all the time.
No,
like this wouldn't be something that'd be defended on a regular basis. Because before it was Grable and Richter who won it, we haven't seen the AWA Women's Tag Team Championship since 1979. So before that, it was Joyce Grable and Vicky Williams, and
Ricky Williams.
Vicky Williams.
I'm like,
and all of a sudden, they just give the belt to Grable and Richter, who eventually did end up losing it to
Velvet
McIntyre and Princess Victoria.
And then the championship, of course, was sold to the WWF and became known as the WWF Women's Tag. We're gonna have to, We're gonna have to do some research and do a whole program. I didn't even know that they had a WWF Women's Tag Team.
Yeah, don't you remember the Jumping Bomb Angels?
Oh yeah, the jumping. You
don't like the Jumping Bomb Angels? That's blasphemy. They're fantastic.
They were you love the Fantastics, or you say that it was fantastic.
I used the word Fantastics. I do enjoy the Fantastics of Tommy Rogers
and Bobby Fulton. They were. I think they.
If you call them a Rock and Roll Express clone, I'm going to punch you right square in the face.
I mean, they were no rock stars like the Freebirds, but I'm not gonna apologize to thinking they were rock stars. But I know you're not a big fan of their music.
I love the Freebirds.
You just don't like them as rock stars.
I don't like the rock star gimmick that they got in like 1989, 1990 WCW.
WCW. Yeah, I mean, this match, didn't really have much. I mean, they, like you said, that this belt was not really defended much. Maybe
it's not a real belt. It's just we have this belt here.
It's kind of like the international tag team, or I think a couple of times they had the 6-man tag team champions in like NWA. They had like a Cup, but then I think they ended up getting the belts. And of course, the Road Warriors are the international tag team champions. It was, they had, I think they a lot of the belts they
There's a lot of kayfabe belts out there. Let's
yeah, I
be
mean
honest.
it's yeah. And speaking
Like
of
Antonio Inoki as the WWF martial arts champion.
the hell's a martial arts champion?
Exactly my point.
And speaking
It's the
of
first ever MMA title.
yeah, and speaking of men that I would not want to cross or make mad, Chief Wahoo McDaniel defeated Eddie Boulder in 7
Fucking
minutes
lit his
6
ass
seconds.
up, by the way.
I mean, what were your thoughts on Wahoo? I mean, he was great in NWA. He was great in AWA.
He would have had a bigger push in WWF, but he got pissed that I think Vince Sr. just tried to punch him in the face or something. So he was blackballed from like the WWF for like ever.
Yeah, it's never good to punch the owner of the company.
I'm
in
not
the
saying he
face.
punched him. That's one of the many stories I heard about Wahoo from back in the day. Wahoo gets a lot of respect, especially from Ric Flair, because essentially Wahoo was the person who discovered Ric Flair as a low-card wrestler in the AWA and brought him down to Crockett. So Ric Flair has a lot of reverence for Wahoo McDaniel, and Wahoo was wrestling for a while. You'll see him after his Crockett run, you would see him back in Florida, like fighting Lex Luger and shit like that. So he spans many generations and has an influence on so many wrestlers. And I prefer Wahoo as a heel because he's such a scumbag as a heel versus like the chief kind of babyface.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, I'm a big I'm a big Wahoo fan.
Like if you watch like him versus Johnny Valentine, if you watch any of those old school matches, they're not even working. They're shooting. Like they're just hitting each other for real.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean he definitely. I love how they call him Chief Wahoo McDaniel's. I was like, I mean, what were your thoughts on him? Like in I mean in the AWA. I mean this match. Yeah, I mean it was.
He beats up Brutus Beefcake. I mean that's always fun.
You do not like Brutus Beefcake, do you?
I do like Brutus Beefcake in 1988, 1989, and then the first part of 1990. At other times, not so much.
Not so much. Not so much. Was that Freight Train coming through?
That is Ice Train from WCW.
He was
One half of Fire and Ice with Scott Flash Norton.
Oh man, I
live near a train. I don't want to tell you people.
hey, well, I mean, you should tell the train not to drive by when we're taping, but you should do that. But I mean, this match, I mean, it was. I mean, do you think Wahoo should have been higher up on the card? Do you think this was kind of a good place for him to?
I mean, in 1983 Wahoo, yeah, he probably deserved better. They don't have necessarily in AWA a second
We
tier
offered
of
$1
singles
million.
champion.
Sorry.
The hell was that? I'm like
Nah.
a damn devil. I'm just saying that at this time in AWA, they didn't really have a secondary championship, so they didn't have like a AWA United States Championship or a tag TV championship that you would give a guy like Wahoo, who probably would have earned that and be in an upper mid card. But yeah, he probably deserved better.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, I
But
think
when you look at the wrestlers, like who do you put him with on this card? Like, do you put him with Blackwell? Well, he's in a feud with Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon in the main event. Well, my eyes just rolled in the back of my head. Do you put him with Patera? Do you put him with Jesse? It depends on what you want to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that yeah, I mean, it's just I don't. I mean, I'm a big fan of.
We all love Wahoo, and I'm actually surprised he's still here and not in Crockett.
Why?
he-
Back in the.
Well, because we'll talk about this when we do Starrcade 83, but the advertised match for Wahoo McDaniel in 83 was Wahoo McDaniel and Hulk Hogan taking on Bob Orton and Dick Slater.
Yeah.
And that match never came to fruition because Hulk Hogan went to WWF. But imagine Hulk Hogan at Starrcade 83. See, Wahoo was going to bring Hogan in to beat up Slater and Orton because they beat the hell out of Flair. He collected Harley Race's bounty when Harley Race was begging people to take the damn money.
Oh, Harley Race. I like Harley Race. I'm a big
Greatest
fan.
wrestler on God's green earth, by the way.
Speaking of a former, I don't know why I'm just thinking about this, political stuff. Former governor of the state of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura, Ken Patera, Black Jack Lanza, defeated high flyers of Greg Gagne and Jim Bronzell and Rick Martel before he was a model, and
Yeah.
Jim Bronzell before he became a killer bee.
Jim Brunzell might be the one of the ugliest motherfuckers on the planet. Looks like his neck threw up. He's gross. He's gross looking. Beef Brian Blair? Yeah, handsome dude. Okay, I can see that. Jim Brunzell? Not so much. No.
Not so much.
No, we had a good dropkick, though.
This match went 17 minutes and 3 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wish it was Masa Saito on this show, but he wouldn't come until later on in the year, in January '84.
Yeah.
Where's Adrian Adonis here? I don't know where he's at. I think he might be in WWF at this point. So you got Ventura, Patera, and Lanza. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, they're going to do some stuff with Ricky Martel down the road. He'll eventually win the AWA World title. But he gets kind of hampered here with Greg Gagne. Jim Brazell's a good worker, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was, an okay match. I think the next match of the card, Nick Bockwinkel, he was the current AWA World Champion, defeated Hulk
He
Hogan
defeats shit.
by
Hogan won
reverse
the match.
decision. Disqualification.
Hogan wins the match. And then they reverse it at the end. They did a dusty finish, essentially. Historically, dusty finishes happen the next week on TV. They just did it at their show. Surprised they weren't a riot because it looked like they were about to have one. Hulk Hogan should have won the belt here. I think everyone is in agreement here. And now the official AWA records do have Hogan as the champion here. And basically after he had to give the belt back to Bockwinkel. There's no reason for Hogan not to win the belt here from a booking perspective, not from a business perspective. That might be slightly different. I know Hulk Hogan had his Japan commitment, so he's going over to Japan quite a bit at this time. But any other narrative that's saying that, Hulk Hogan didn't be the champion, the money was in the chase, that's bullshit. That's old school thinking. That wasn't going to work. In a company that was considering national expansion in 1983, it wasn't going to work with the character of Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan needed the belt. He should have won here. Stanley Blackburn, James Blears, you guys can fuck off, by the way, because Hogan should have won the belt here. And it's a goddamn shame that he didn't. Some people will say that Hogan refused to take the title because Vern wanted Hogan's Japanese money, which is something that Vern would do. He would try it again down the road also. The thing about Vern Gagne at this point of his life, very behind the times. They're still making money. They're still drawing extremely well. They wouldn't fall off a cliff until like 86 starts it. By the time you get to 1988, 1989, the show was fucking awful and they're losing money hand over fist. They have no talent. But not for nothing, to be completely honest as well, if I have to play devil advocate here for a second, a lot of people out there saying that if Hulk Hogan would have won the belt here, he wouldn't have won the WWF. And I say this, Hulk Hogan was going to WWF regardless. He would have went with the fucking belt. I'm sure of that. So, although Vern wasn't thinking it at the time, so I can't credit Vern by keeping the belt off Hogan because he thought he was going to leave and lose him. It was Vern keeping the belt off of Hogan because he wasn't an amateur wrestler. Whatever. Stop thinking like that because that's stupid. And he wanted Hogan's money. He wanted Hulk Hogan's Japan money. He wanted his merch money. And it's Vern thinking he is, his ego got the best of him at this point in his life. And not for nothing, you look at the current WWE product right now, I'll say this. Vince McMahon has become the thing he's always hated. He's become Vern Gagne.
Hey, well, we're gonna talk about that on a future Patreon show.
And Vern being Vern, he's in the fucking main event too. Vern wins the title in his retirement match. Like, he gives no fucks.
And speaking of giving no fucks, the main event, Vern Gagne, Mad Dog Vachon, defeated Sheik Adnan Al-Kaisi and
Who's
Jerry
also
Blackwell.
you need to get on the show, by the way, because he's very friendly.
Do what?
Sheik Adnan Al-Kaisi, you should get an interview with him because he's very friendly.
Oh, he is. Well, I will do my research. I'll put my people in touch with his people. And
person. You have a person. You don't have people. You have a person, and it's yourself.
Listen here, buddy. Well, You know what? Fuck you. What was your thought on this?
Combined age of this match, 164. By the way, with Vern Gagne and Matt Ovechon and the Sheik here, Jerry Blackwell, who I often get confused with Norman the Lunatic for some reason. I don't know, and I get them, I interchange them, and people make fun of me about it. But it is what it is. Jerry Blackwell, hell of a worker and a pretty decent promoter in your neck of the woods, from what I understand. So, the big match should have been here. If you want to rebook this, Hogan beats Bockwinkel in the main event. Jerry Blackwell beats Vern in the semi-main. You go off and running with Hulk Hogan and Jerry Blackwell for the rest of the year. That's what it should have been.
But it wasn't.
I know. And at this time, by the way, Vern Gagne buys a part of St. Louis, by the way, which is weird.
The city of St. Louis?
No, the territory.
Oh, okay.
The St. Louis territory. Because you'll see later on in the year Hulk Hogan and Jesse Ventura making shots in St. Louis for the NWA, which is weird. Now, as the NWA as an entity, how are you going to let a rival promotion, the owner of a rival promotion, buy a piece of a territory? That's more shenanigans and tomfoolery there.
I hate shenanigans, and I'm not a big fan of tomfoolery. But I know you're a big fan of Sam Houston. That's neither here nor there.
Sam Houston, Mad Dog Vachon, like these guys, like that's the problem with the AWA, because if you go look, throughout the rest of the run here for the AWA, they wouldn't last too much longer. They got another 8 years or so. You have all these old guys on top. You have your Nick Bockwinkel's, and you have your Mad Dog Vachons, and you have the Crusher and the Bruiser, and these guys on top for so long that by the time these guys couldn't wrestle anymore, you have not made any new stars, or any new stars you've already made have gotten pissed and left. So you end up at the end of the day with like Larry Zbyszko and Del Wilkes to close out the AWA, and that's it. And I love Larry to death, and the reason he was still there is because he was married to Vern's daughter.
Hey, it's called nepotism, and it's
I
called
love
wrestling.
Destruction Crew. I liked them better as the Destruction Crew than I did the Beverly Brothers, but no, that's all they had. They had Del Wilkes as the trooper. They had the Destruction Crew, and that's about it. Stan Slaughter until he jumped in 1990. And then you had Baron Von Raschke still around. What the fuck, dude?
Well, on that weird note, what were your overall thoughts? I mean, what would you give this card between 1 and 10?
Probably like a 5. Like it from a historical point of view, it's very important historically because of the Hogan Bockwinkel deal here. Seeing Lawler, work a big show for the AWA. You see Wendy Richter, which would, she would go on to the WWF, and not for nothing, Wendy Richter in the WWF, she was, approaching Hogan level status on the women's side in terms of popularity before they did the screw job finish for her and Moolah. So, nice to see Wahoo here. You see a young Brutus Beefcake. Jesse is Jesse. We all love Jesse, the best color commentator in the history. Better than Bobby Heenan, better than Jerry Lawler. Don't get at me. That's the reality of the situation here, guys. He's the best analyst out of all of them. That's just the truth. That's just truth.
And speaking of things that are better than everything else, if someone wants to somehow, if they have some free time and they're not listening or watching our podcast YouTube version on YouTube, just type in the keyword The Retro Wrestling Rewind.
And I have a special announcement, by the way. I have a special announcement. This is a Retro Wrestling Rewind exclusive. Now, on Retro Wrestling Games Presents, we do the NWA 1984 project. Before that, we did the NWA 1983 project. And for 2019, announcing it here first, we're going to do the AWA 1990 project as our next kind of rebooking history, while me, myself, and I purchased the AWA with a large sum of money, and I have a large sum of money at my disposal, and how I would book the resurrection of the AWA in 1990. So be on the lookout for that. That's starting next year.
And if people wanted to watch that and listen to that, how would they do that?
Well, just type in Retro Wrestling Games in on the YouTube search bar with the first thing that pops up. So make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell, because then you get notified every time I post a new video.
You said a new video, not a nude video.
Well, those two. Those are on Pornhub.
Well, that's that's a different Patreon page. But yeah, I mean, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at the RW Rewind. Of course, we have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/retro wrestling rewind. We have many levels. We have the Western States Heritage Champion. We have the TV Champion. We have the National Champion. And of course, we have the 60-Minute Man, the NWA World Champion. Folks,
Not the 60-second assassins. And guys, if you want to jump in on a show, we'll have the conversation with you. You jump on the show, you pick a topic, we talk about that topic. You know,
Even
if
if
you
it's
want
Sam
to, you want to
Houston.
vote on the show on the Patreon page, vote on the show. My vote's for Uncensored 1995. Or if you want to be a jerk about it, UWF Beach Brawl.
oh,
That show's crazy.
And speaking of the, you want to give a little, I'm going to give a little preview for next week, episode. What are we are on episode? We'll be on episode number
I don't know.
number 13. There's a little preview.
Chicago, one tough town. It's known hard times and hot times. Chi-Town, USA. It's had its share of good guys and bad guys. But when Starrcade came to town, Chicago finally met its match. Starrcade 87, Chi-Town Heat, wrestling's ultimate battleground, now on video cassette, starring Dusty Rhodes and Lex Luger for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship. Skywalker 2, the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express turn up the heat 20 feet above the ring, where anything can happen. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard battle the Road Warriors for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. And the ultimate, Ric Flair, Ronnie Garvin, a no time limit, no disqualification bone crusher for the World Heavyweight Championship. Starrcade 87, more than 2 hours of Chi-Town heat, and it's all here, hotter than anything you've ever seen.
Comes every wrestling fan's dream to put them out of business, because that show is Great American Bash 1988. But this is the start of that.
I mean, it was a terrible show.
Ronnie Garvin, Ric Flair main event.
No time limit, no disqualification, bone crusher for the world's heavyweight title. Oh my God, it was. I mean, I decided to switch it up, and it was.
Skywalker's 2.
Yep, the Rock and Roll Express versus the.
Why can't we just have a Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express title match? Or maybe something in a cage. You don't bring back the fucking scaffold match a year after you just did it?
Yep. We will definitely talk about that on episode number 13. But for the great Alex G, as always, I am the world's greatest retired independent wrestling ring announcer. I am David Fine. We will see you back here next week for episode number 13, where we cover Starrcade. Yeah, that's right, folks. We are talking Starrcade. That's next week right here on Retro Wrestling Rewind. We'll see you back here next week.